Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is the man who purified himself over the barbecue flame, John Keys.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I won't say happy Memorial Day. I will say I hope everybody had a great Memorial Day today. Spend time with loved ones and remember, our fallen brothers.
Absolutely. KC had a previous engagement, so he is not joining us tonight, but we still have a lot to talk about. Even though we didn't cover any fights this weekend, we'll jump right into Finding the Angles, our segment where we look at the headlines that are getting attention in the MMA world. This is Finding the Angles. Finding the Angles. This is Finding the Angles. This is where we're talking about the headlines that people are talking about in the MMA world. The first thing we're going to talk about is from Twitter and ESPN. Even though we didn't cover any fights, we typically cover the Bellator and UFC, there is another promotion that's out there that's making its way up the ladder when it comes to getting eyeballs. And I'm not talking about ONE FC. I'm talking about PFL, Professional Fight League.
Man, you're talking about taking an eyeball. I mean, I think they literally will try and take an eyeball at this point. I think we need to really start putting a spotlight on the PFL. We like their how they do their rankings. We like the bracket, the season system. It works.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I like about it is we've already invested in ESPN Plus, so they're on ESPN Plus as well. So we can actually watch those very easily. One of the things I talked about last year is the fact that of the PFL that I had watched, it was interesting, just the format of the entire league. But what they needed better distribution, and they got it with ESPN on ESPN Plus. So now we can watch the fights. Like I went and I was working on watching some of the fights from last week. Because it's it's kind of like a weekly or bi-weekly type thing where fighters are working their way through a regular season before they get to what's called the playoffs. This is something that we're at the second week of the season. There are no champions. Only the winner is crowned as champion. And then when the season starts up again, all championship belts are removed and you're just another fighter working his way up the ladder. And I love that part of the PFL.
It's a beautiful thing. Like I said, why haven't we seen this before? I mean, heck, if we even just used it just to modify our ranking system, that would be a more standardized way of doing it. And not only that, but fighters see who they're automatically going to fight unless there's an injury, God forbid. But the fighters see what they're going to fight. They know their rankings. And let's just say, even if you're the champion, you still got to go in that ranking. You still know who you're going to fight.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
And I think that Bellator with their Grand Prix, the welterweight Grand Prix, and they're doing a lightweight or featherweight Grand Prix. I think they're going to get, they see the value of tournament style fighting. So the PFL, I think, are going to really do extremely well with the way that they're doing it. The one thing I want to talk about real quick about the PFL is Movlid I've been practicing this actually. Movlid Bulev. Oh man, I fell down on the job.
He gets an A for effort, but he gets a C+ for execution.
Oh man, Movlid Bulaev. Oh man, dude knocked a guy out in 10 seconds. That's the point I'm trying to get at here.
That's all that matters.
His name is hard to pronounce, but guess what? Dude knocked a guy out in 10 seconds for PFL. It's the fastest knockout they've ever had in the PFL, and I mean it was a flying knee knockout, timed perfectly. Have you seen the highlights of that?
I have not seen the highlights. As a matter of fact, as we're talking, I'm bringing it up. But, the dude has a hard name to pronounce. He wanted all the smoke. He hits hard. He has a hard name to pronounce. What more can we ask from a man? I mean, seriously.
Well, there's one thing that you can ask for him, and that is be from Dagestan. and that dude is from Dagestan. Like
What
I'm
are
starting
they
to think that
feeding these
rule number
people?
one should no longer be, the rule number one should no longer be don't bet against the Russians. Just don't bet against people from Dagestan. If it says that they were born or otherwise took a trip to Dagestan at some point in their career, then don't bet against them. This guy's going to win.
Oh, yeah, and I'm looking at this. It's
Let me just take 10 seconds. Hold on. We'll just take 10 seconds for you to watch the entire fight.
Yeah, hold on. Give me a second here. All right.
The buffer factor on this one is ridiculous.
And the guy throws a kick. That's not bad. Nice front kick. Buyout.
And
it's over.
Okay. Yeah. It's like a 10x. It's a 10 or 11x buffer factor here.
Yeah, I mean, and not only did he popped him in the knee I think it was a knee to the jaw. It was so perfect, but then he got him by the back of the head and just plants him on the ground like, do not go any.
Well, yeah, like he didn't even try to throw a punch. He knew it that the moment the guy fell down, like the guy fell face first. It was one of those things where he was, face down, butt up in the air. That the guy's out because nobody is gonna take that position unless they are unconscious.
So in the classic of Mike Tyson's Punch Out, yeah, that was a one hitter quitter.
There it is.
It was over.
So all that to say is that if there's no other reason than to take a look at PFL, it's that 10-second knockout right there.
Yes. I don't think there's been a more textbook flying knee KO ever. It was literally perfectly timed, it hit perfectly on the jaw, and it was done. Done.
All right, Uriah Faber. You remember the California Kid?
Dude, how old is this man?
God. He's like mid-30s. Like he's not even. I mean, comparatively, he's relatively young compared to some of these fighters who are still trying to make a career. He says that he's accepted a fight for the UFC return. I saw this on MMA Mania. They basically said that he thinks that he can still compete, and he's accepted a fight, but they have not announced who he is going to be fighting.
Well, see, and you said a lot of key words there. He thinks he's ready to compete. Nothing against the California Kid. I mean, I have much respect for being a pioneer, and I'm pretty sure there's a place in the future for a Hall of Fame spot for him for being a pioneer of his division. However, these ain't the same kids that he was beating up before in WEC. Okay, this is the UFC. I don't think his record speaks for him.
Yeah, it really does though. Like if you go back and look, that was the thing about Uriah Faber, is the fact that he was a champion in WEC. He came over and he fought for the championship multiple times in the UFC, and he never won. But he never moved very far from number 2 or number 3 in the division. Right. And so how many times can you lose the title before it's like there's no other place for you to go? So now that he's lost the title, or now that he's retired and then he's coming back, the landscape has changed because the person who was giving him so many fits was Jose Aldo. Jose is basically
Cruz, actually.
Well, it was Dominic Cruz, but also Jose Aldo. Like both of those guys were. I mean, so at 135, it was Dominic Cruz. At 145, it was Jose Aldo. So like no matter where he went, he couldn't find purchase there. There was no place for him to really go and challenge for the title. I think that as you get older, it's harder to cut that weight. So I think he was fighting at 145, and I think that maybe that's where he's coming back to. But now he can potentially fight Frankie Edgar. He can potentially fight Max Holloway.
That'd be brutal, though. I mean,
but it's
Frankie Edgar. That would be a good classical matchup. But Max Holloway, I don't know if he's a Max Holloway type of guy. I don't think he can go there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing though. Is like as long as it's not Jose Aldo, he can make a comeback. So we'll see. We'll keep our ear to the street and see what they're going to announce for Uriah Faber, the California kid.
You gonna call him the Colorado kid? We saw that. You're thinking of KC. I see.
Well, Factory X. No, Team Alpha Male, Uriah Faber, the California kid. We'll see who they announce, and then we'll talk about whether or not it's a good matchup for him. But at the end of the day, I mean, he was top 2, top 3 in his division consistently, and no one under him could beat him. So. I think that he's got a chance. I'm willing to give him a chance. He left on his own terms. He wasn't leaving because people were beating him.
And I'm looking here at his record, which, by the way, he was 34-10. His last fight was in December of 2016 and he won against Brad Pickett. But if you look at his losses, it's a oh my God list. For the most part.
The people who beat him are great fighters.
Yeah, there's Dominic Cruz, Frankie Edgar, Renan Barao. Let's see here. Renan Barao, Dominic Cruz, Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo. Then Mike Brown beat him twice. But, these are guys that, that are beasts.
They're
monsters
beasts
in the division. And the people that he's beaten are no slouches either.
Yeah.
He's beaten Dominic Cruz. He beat him Dominic Cruz early in the career, and I don't think Dominic really appreciated that. We're looking at the likes of, let's see here, as we go through here, Jens Pulver.
You're going way back.
I know. Rafael Ansao. Yeah, him too.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Like I said, Brad Pickett, he beat Bruce Leroy. Of course, that's not hard to do. But like I said, just a who's who.
Anybody who was coming up from the top 10, trying to get up to that championship, if they went against Uriah Faber, they lost. Uriah Faber, when he fought for the title, and you look, it's every one of those fights against Jose Aldo, Dominic Cruz. Those are all title fights. That was what he lost. He could never get over the hump. He was basically the lightweight Kenny Florian.
Ooh, Kenny can run up on you, dude.
Kenny can run up on me, but Kenny fought for the title in 3 different weight classes. And did he ever walk away with gold? No, he didn't. Like, he can beat me up if. Well, I don't know that. I mean, he's not in my weight class. Like, I need like 3 Kennys to actually be in my weight class. But the fact is that he can't fight me over facts.
I agree. He's forever the bridesmaid and never the bride. But
I'm just saying, So Uriah Faber is, when it comes to the UFC, Uriah Faber is the exact same. Always beating the number 1 contender and winning that fight, and then losing in the title fight. He's always done it. I mean, he did it against Renan Barao, did it against Jose Aldo, did it against Dominic Cruz. It was never his night when it came time for the big fight. So I hope he gets another run at it. Let him do it until he starts getting knocked out. And once he starts getting knocked out, then maybe he can take a hint.
And that's another thing. I'm looking here, and I'm only seeing 1 loss by TKO. All the other losses that he had,
decisions.
If I'm looking, have been decisions. They're all okay. 1, 2, 3 times he has lost by TKO.
Yeah, but one of those fights by TKO was heavily disputed because he got rocked. He started to wrestle, and the referee called the fight off. They considered it an early stoppage.
Right.
So even one of those fights, so you're really down to 2, and he's fought 40-something fights.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, I mean, let's not take anything away from Uriah Faber. That dude is a great fighter. It's just he hasn't won the big fight. He's going to make another run at it. Let's see who he's going to get, and we'll see what he does, having had 3 years off.
Right.
All right, let's go on. Got to talk about Colby Covington.
Why?
Because, we got to talk about it.
Brazil, I'm so sorry that we're doing this.
He's picking on Jon Jones.
Does this man? I mean, you want to know why he's picking on people?
Because he knows he will never fight Jon Jones. So he can say whatever he wants to say about Jon Jones. Jon Jones is never going to get in the ring with him. We're never going to see those two to fight. And so he can say as much as he wants about how he used to drop Jon Jones on his head back in college. This ain't college, man.
I'm telling you, this is that one time in life that I wish that MMA fighters would act like boxers and just walk up on people and be like, "What were you saying again, sir?" And just shut him up, because that's the reason why he's talking all that smack, is because he knows that nobody's going to come give him what he wants. And this is the one time that I wish Jon Jones would literally drop this whole "I'm a nice guy" facade and go full Joker on this guy and just show up on him, okay, and do some things and get it off his chest.
Yeah. So basically, what Colby Covington is saying, that he would beat Jon Jones,
and then he woke up. Then
he's like, but since Jon Jones has the picograms, then he's supercharged, he's super powerful. I can't beat him because he's got the picograms. That's basically the line.
This is the only time you're actually making me root for Jon Jones. And not just Jon Jones the fighter to go find him and beat him senselessly. I mean, anger beat him. But Jon Jones the person to just like, dude, drop that persona and go get him. Okay, and that's what you're making me do. Don't send your brothers, Jon Jones. Send yourself and go get him.
Yeah,
okay?
But that's the thing, right? Let's actually just take a moment to show how cowardly Colby Covington is, because he's picking on a fighter who's 2 weight classes up from him, and he's saying stuff that he knows he's never going to have to show and prove that he can actually do what he says. He does. There's no value in him saying all of this stuff, and he is so irrelevant now that the only reason why I'm talking about it is because of the fact that it is so ridiculous that this is what he's sunk to, because now it's his ability to fight Kamaru Usman is in jeopardy. And if he doesn't get to fight that fight, then he may not get to fight for a title ever again.
All I'm saying is that I know, all right, if in the world of social media, anybody saying that it's impossible for Colby Covington to fight Jon Jones does not know the power of Instagram. Jon Jones, if you're listening to me, I'm just saying, man, Instagram, go to his gym and just creep up from behind and be like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And I just want to see the video of that first look, the look of fear in his eyes, because that's all he's gonna have is fear.
Yeah, but the problem,
just shut it off. That's it. You ain't gotta punch him.
The problem with it is that Colby Covington is saying, "Oh, but it's the picograms, because Jon Jones has the picograms. That's why I can't beat him." It's not because Jon Jones has an abnormally long range with his reach. It's not because Jon Jones brings, a true mixed martial arts bag of skills to the octagon. It's not the fact that he's one of the most intelligent fighters. No, it's the picograms.
Okay.
Let's just think about it. There's no one. There's a reason why, even with the picograms, we still acknowledge the fact that Jon Jones is the most talented MMA fighter on the UFC roster and possibly in all of MMA. Picograms are not.
Okay.
That's Jon Jones. And now we've got this guy who just runs his mouth and says whatever he wants, wearing a MAGA hat, and trying to take pictures with Donald Trump Jr. with his belt, just because he's just trying to stay relevant now. I would love to see Jon Jones do it, but he's going to run from it because he's already set it up by saying, "Well, I can't do it because of the picograms." Man, if I could turn those picograms off, stop the pulsing, and just where it's like Jon Jones hasn't pulsed for picograms in 6 months, then you go run up on him and be like, "What's up, bro? Like you gotta be like Anthony Lionheart Smith whenever he ran up on KC and be like, "Yo, you want to fight?"
Factory X.
Like, look, we're gonna be talking about Factory X in the next segment, so let's just I'm just trying to get it out there now. Like, that is now the reference is, you want to fight? I want Jon Jones to just run up on him like you said, but he can't have the picograms. They can't be an excuse.
Okay, so there's the motivation for Jon Jones to get off. I'm sorry, not get off, but hopefully it'll flush throughout his system.
Stop pulsing, right?
Yeah, stop pulsing, dude.
Another person needs to run up on somebody is this war of words between Tony Ferguson and Ali Abdelaziz. All right? So Ali Abdelaziz is the manager of a lot of fighters, but mainly the one that you know is Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Well,
and so,
there's quite a few.
Yeah, he's the manager for a lot of them, but the biggest name on his roster is Khabib Nurmagomedov. And so here's what happened, and I got this from MMA Junkie. Earlier this week, ESPN, on their Twitter account, they posted an image of all the fighters that are kind of waiting for this resolution between Dustin Poirier and Khabib Nurmagomedov. And so it had images of Donald Cerrone and Tony Ferguson. It also had Conor McGregor and Justin Gaethje, because we think that that's going to be Conor's next fight once he gets healed, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And so Ali Abdelaziz, what he did was he reposted that image, but he put a chicken emoji on Conor's head, and he put a clown emoji on Tony Ferguson's head. So Tony didn't like that too much. We know now that Tony is wound a bit too tight, and so Tony, when seeing himself being called a clown, responded with threats to Abdelaziz, and so they basically started this war of words. Now the thing is that Ali Abdelaziz actually used to be an MMA fighter. Wasn't a great MMA fighter, but he did fight, and I think he was an MMA fighter for a little short period of time. Also did some kickboxing or some jiu-jitsu or something like that. But the fact is that he is not a UFC caliber fighter, and so him picking fights, knowing that he's got this stable of elite athletes that's going to have his back, is just kind of cowardly to me as well. So we're going to have to start this cowards coven or something like that, where we could stick, a stable of people who talk smack when they know that there's no consequences to the smack that they're talking. Because Lord knows if Abdelaziz really want to step into that ring with Tony Ferguson, Tony would oblige that with the quickness.
Yes, but when managers start doing that, and we knew it was going to happen eventually. Only thing, when you said this, when you were talking about this, all I can remember was Bobby the Brain Heenan's from WWE and WCW being a stable manager there and talking some of the most glorious smack talk than anybody that you've ever heard. And that's what I hear when you say that. I'm like, dude, give it up. All right. You know what? I understand you are down for your fighters like faux flat tires. I get that. You are willing to pull the shirt off your back for your fighters.
He's not. I don't believe that he is. I think
he is. Because you got to understand, there's something about Ali. It's the same thing that I say about Jon Jones. There is something there that is just off. Okay, with Jon Jones, we know Daniel Cormier shows that side of Jon Jones that I've always sensed about him. I sense the same thing about Ali. Okay, I think he's that dude that will sit there and say, you know what, man, he got that problem with you, I'll be right back, and he'll go and find that dude. I think he's that dude.
No, he is not that dude. If he was that dude, then when UFC 229 popped off, it wouldn't have been Dylan Dennis that was fighting. It wouldn't have been Khabib jumping over the fence and fighting Dylan Dennis. It wouldn't have been Khabib's, Tukagov and all those guys. It would have been Ali fighting. Where was Ali in all of this?
That is a very good question. Where was he? Was he even in the arena?
I think he might have been hiding. We can go back and watch the 229 video. That's something that's easy to do. But the fact is that I disagree. I don't think Ali Abdelaziz is the kind of guy that's going to go and find somebody and hem them up the way Habib hemmed up Artem Lobov. No, he's going to be that guy that's going to be a Twitter warrior. He's going to be the guy that's taking over Habib's Twitter account and talking smack on behalf of Habib, using Habib's account to stir up some mess.
Oh, I don't think of him as a mess stirrer.
He is a mess stirrer. He just, shots were fired. Tony wasn't even talking to Ali, and Ali went and called him a clown on Twitter. Ali is starting mess. That's why I'm saying you got Colby Covington and now you got Ali Abdelaziz. Those guys, I'm putting them in the same bucket.
Wow, that's pretty harsh.
Same bucket. You're in the same bucket, guys. Because you're picking fights with fighters that you ain't got to fight. And that, for me, is cowardly.
I agree, but I don't know, man. I think we got to do a deep dive into old Ali and see what he's about.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
I think we can do that.
All right. So another guy that Ali has been picking on is Conor McGregor. Calling Conor McGregor a quitter. Calling it because he tapped out. This is the thing. I know Habib is not the guy that's going to sit there and just be a smack talker like Conor. But when you see it coming from Habib, it's probably coming by way of ghostwriter Ali.
Wow.
And so
he ain't got the chops for witty sarcasm, huh?
Habib, I mean, when has Habib ever said anything that's just been dope? He's only said a couple of things, right?
Send me location.
Send me location was classic, right? But listen, it's send me location. It's not a Twitter war, right? When Habib talks smack, it's you remember the other great line that he had against Conor leading up to 229 was Conor was making fun of how Habib Nurmagomedov was his people were conquered by the larger Russian Soviet Union or whatever, and Habib threw back at him and goes, yeah, just like y'all were conquered by the English, and he goes, I see you're speaking English today and not your native language, and that just was boom.
Yes.
It's that is the trash talk that Habib does. Habib is I've studied Gaelic history and realized that you have a weak spot here. So I'm gonna call that out in the press conference. All this Twitter stuff, that's not Habib. I don't even credit. If Habib says something that's other than send me location, it's not Habib. And the fact is that Habib ain't gonna talk smack during Ramadan anyway because it's Ramadan.
Exactly.
So it's not even religiously possible for him to talk smack right now. Study your Muslim theology, your Islamic theology. You'll see that there's no way that Habib is talking smack for these 30 days. So if there's smack that's being talked, it's Ali Abdelaziz.
And you know what? And I will agree with that because you just reminded me of saying that Ali did a interview. And I want to say it was with Ariel Helwani. No, he doesn't like Ariel Helwani. It was somebody else.
Who doesn't like Ariel Helwani? That dude is the most genuine dude on the planet.
Dude, he has legitimate if I see him on the street, it's on type beef with him.
Yet again, yeah, you want to fight Ariel Helwani. Come on, bro.
I don't think he want to fight him. I think he wants to run him over. Okay, I think he honestly wants to inflict bodily harm with as little effort as possible.
All right, I'm just saying, why you want to chase after a fight or hurt little freaking Ariel Helwani? There's
hold on, Dana wants to hurt him.
Yeah. But Dana wants to hurt him because Dana has issues with the fact that Ariel Helwani is going to ask the question that everybody wants to know, but nobody wants to ask because it's Dana. But Ariel Helwani has so much, credibility in the, in the MMA journalist realm that like he can ask that question. And how are you not going to have Ariel Helwani in your journal row, right? Like he's that guy. Him and Karen Bryant. You got to have those two.
And plus, Dana is a Trump supporter, so he doesn't. I don't know if he likes the journalist corps, the journalist corps anyway. But going back to Ali, when he was doing the interview, he cussed during Ramadan. Okay, he cussed, and I was just like, dude, what are you doing? And he vocally said, I don't want to, talk bad. I don't want to cuss, but dropped the F-bomb right there. And I was like, dude, that was less than 5 words. Okay, come on, man. And I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah, we're gonna have to do a deep dive on Ali.
I'm just saying, Ali, that's the dude that he is. That's the guy he is. I got to come up with a name for it. That's what I'm gonna work on this week. Is I'm gonna come up with a name for all of these people that are talking so much trash, but they're talking trash to people that they're not gonna have to back it up against.
Oh, we got a word for that, and that's just punks, cowardly punks.
All right, there you go. And I didn't say it; you said it. So if he comes rolling up, it's on you.
I'm be like, my name is Ryan Smith.
No, it's not.
The John Keys you're looking for is about 6'4", and he's about 300 plus pounds, and he's in the marketing department of some company. Okay,
okay, whatever. All right.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Ali talking smack to Conor. Conor is trying to get ready because his suspension from USADA for UFC 229 is almost over. It looks like he's going to be fighting Justin Gaethje, and so that's a good fight. That's a good fight. I think that's a good fight, and I think that's the fight that he needs to get a W. I think that's the fight that he could get a W with, if he's careful. And that means that he's got to start training, and so he's been training, and then he broke his hand. He broke his left hand, and so what we've seen is that fighters like Daniel Cormier, fighters like Tyron Woodley, as they get later in their careers, they're starting to have these hand problems where they're getting, Tyron Woodley specifically is coming down with, these arthritic conditions in their hands. Now that Conor broke his hand, there's a chance that he may not be able to sustain that powerful left that he's knocked so many fighters out in the past. Now that it's broken, there's a chance that he may not be as powerful.
Yeah, that is true. Once you break the hand, it doesn't work correctly ever again. So I don't care how anybody says it. Once a bone has been broken, it never sets right. I know. I have a fractured wrist, and I have a fracture in my right, and I've broken my left wrist. And believe me, they pop out of place at odd times. I have to pop them.
So
back
that's
in.
why you walk around with your hands like that.
Yes. I don't know. I'm not even going to entertain that.
I'm joking. I'm making jokes.
I did not walk around like Roger D. That's the image that jumped in your mind like it jumped in mine. I did not walk around like Roger D. Alien.
Yes, okay? That's it.
But yeah, so I mean, it's heartbreaking, that it actually happened. So best of luck for Conor to recover that hand. Because once your power's gone, I mean, what you got left? Yeah,
he's going to start getting into some jiu-jitsu or something like that. Lay off that left hand for a while or something like that. I don't know. But someone who's going to come forward like Justin Gaethje, you need the ability to use that left hand. So hopefully he'll be able to use it and won't immediately break it again. Like that's what I'm going to be looking for in that fight if they get it scheduled and everything, is whether or not he's going to be able to use that left hand like he's done it in the past, and whether or not coming out of that fight, it's not broken again.
Yeah, either that or he better be fast on his feet.
Yep. Get on the horse. Get on the bicycle. That's what they say, right?
Yeah.
All right. They call this person the Turk in the NFL. That's the guy that comes and calls you into the coach's office right before you're cut from the team. The Turk has been busy in the UFC with 4 fighters that have been cut. The biggest name of those 4 fighters is Elias Theodorou, who just got finished fighting at UFC Ottawa.
Wow. I don't get this one. He was a 8-3 fighter. He had a good standing. He didn't have I want to say, was the last fight where it wasn't the best fight, but
Right.
dang,
Yeah.
not enough to cut the dude.
Yeah, especially given the fact that you've got such a big market in Canada, and he's one of those guys that has some name recognition. He's a good-looking dude, so people pay attention to him. He's with the relationship that UFC has with Invicta, he's a ring boy for Invicta. So he's getting out to the female audiences there. There's a lot of things that he was doing right, and I can say, and this is my only claim to fame, one of my few stories of stardom is I actually got to meet Elias Theodorou in Ottawa, maybe 3 years ago, when the last time that the UFC was in Ottawa, and asked him for a picture. He was super cool, shook my hand, and went on about his day. So
Yeah.
he's he's always been that just super cool, intelligent dude. But in so much as he is, there was something and I don't know. I think I got this from MMA Mania. But one of the things that they said is that he has been working with the USADA to try to get a therapeutic use exemption for in-competition cannabis for medical reasons. And that may be why they cut him.
I will agree with that. All right, because if that happens, that opens up a door for a lot of other fighters to sit there and say, "Hey, hold on." Like Sugar Sean O'Malley. Well, he did it.
The Diaz brothers, yeah. Both of them use cannabis to overcome a lot of their anxiety and neurological issues, whatever they have.
Yeah.
They use cannabis to be able to help them cope with that. There's a lot of fighters. I mean, Matt Riddle has found himself a career in professional wrestling, but that was one of my favorite fighters who got cut because of the fact that he refused to give up his medical marijuana in order to help himself cope with a lot of the things that he was dealing with. I feel like that once a fighter starts getting a little bit too political, starts working the system, that the UFC sees that person as a potential threat, and so therefore they just part ways. Because I really don't see why a fighter like Elias Theodorou would be cut. Like these other guys, Wilson Heiss, he's a flyweight fighter, been knocked out a couple of times. Demetrius Johnson knocked him out. Henry Cejudo knocked him out. Like he's lost his last maybe 3 or 4 fights. Like, yeah, I got that. Marcelo Golm, I see, I can see that. Like, who was that guy? Yeah. Eric Shelton, who was that guy? Like, I can see why these guys are getting cut. But someone as big a name as Elias Theodorou and the UFC not offer any other reason why they're cutting him, it's just we cut him. I feel like there's something that's political that's attached, that's motivating that's not his performance in the octagon.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there. I really do. So we shall see. I think eventually the reasons will come out in the next coming weeks, and we will judge then, I guess.
All right, last story, and I kind of hoped that KC would have been here for this one, so we may have to revisit this one next week. And that is Washington State has a mutual combat law. So basically, 2 people, if they're having a disagreement, they can just say, we'll settle this with fisticuffs right now. They call the police show up, and they're like, ready, fight. And you can fight with a police officer present just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. And, once someone goes down, then the fight's over and you walk away. No, you don't get arrested, no ticketing, nothing. You just fight and walk away.
That is beautiful. I just want to know, do you get the option of having the officer cut on the lights, the police lights, while you're fighting? That way to give it a whole Street Fighter feel?
Oh, I don't know, but that would be kind of cool. But now, how interesting would it be? Would it to be walking down the street in Washington and 2 people are just having disagreement? All of a sudden, the cop car pulls up and they start, kicking off their shoes and bouncing around, getting ready to fight. It's like, okay, I think I'll just sit and watch this. I'll start yelling World Star and maybe I get some likes.
But that's something serious to think about. I mean, does the police officer, is he the ref? Does he tell them?
Yes.
No punches to the groin, no biting, no nothing like that.
The police officer is there to ensure that the fight is a fair fight, and right. So the link that I came across, maybe I'll add it to the website, to the post, because I don't know if you're aware of a guy by the name of Phoenix Jones.
Yes, I do know who he is.
So
he's a street vigilante.
Yeah, so for those of you out there, Phoenix Jones is, if you've ever seen that movie where there's a guy who becomes a street vigilante and dresses up as a superhero and goes out and fights kind of small-time crime, that's what Phoenix Jones does. And he's got a crew of about 3 guys that go out every night and patrol the streets. He carries a can of mace or pepper spray or whatever, and he's dressed in a costume and he's out there patrolling the streets. Well, there's a video of him taking advantage of the Washington State Mutual Combat Law, that these guys had a problem with Phoenix Jones, and so he's like, would you like to settle this with a fight? And so they're like, yeah. So these dudes, I'm sure they've been drinking or whatever, but they don't really understand that there is a law that allows them to fight. And so Phoenix is like, let's be clear. He's kind of goading them on, like, would you want to fight this out? And they're like, yeah, I'll fight you. Yeah, you want to fight? We can fight. So one of his other homeboys is calling the cops. Cop shows up. And so they're talking about it. And he's like, listen, we're willing to walk away right now, but if you want to settle this with a fight, I consent to a fight. Like, he's using those words. I consent to a fight. What people don't know is that Phoenix Jones is an MMA athlete. He is a mixed martial artist fighter. So him consenting to a fight really isn't a fair fight, because dude knows what he's doing. So what happens is he consents to a fight. The other guy who has a problem with him consents to a fight. I think they kick off their shoes, to be honest. I think they kick their shoes off. Cops there. They shake hands. The fight is on. And all of a sudden you see Phoenix Jones go from just like standing around talking smack to like bouncing around, using crazy athletic footwork. I mean, it's almost like he's doing the Jenga from Capoeira, but not, right?
Oh, wow.
I mean, but it just that is how agile and just, I mean, he's almost cat-like in his movements. And this other dude is just like standing there, like waiting. And then come the leg kicks.
Ooh.
And so this outside leg kick that Phoenix Jones starts landing on this dude is debilitating. And he lands one so hard that the guy, his whole body turns. Like, that's how hard it was.
Wow.
And so you see him land this leg kick. The guy's body turns. And as he stops standing back up to turn, Phoenix comes back over the top with an overhand right and just lays the guy out. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful combo. And it's like, now all that guy's friends, now they want to fight. And he's like, nope, that was the consensual fight. I don't consent to any other fights. We're leaving now. And the cops there is like, okay, you have to stop. You have to calm yourself down. And the cops there, and they just walk away. And it's like, oh my gosh, could we do this in Texas?
We could. I think the cops would be extremely busy and entertained at the same time.
Yeah, the problem though is like, we still have this gun problem, right? Like, everybody has a gun. Yeah. Everybody has a gun. So it's like, okay, maybe I'm losing this fight, but now I'm going to find you a bit later. And we're going to redo this, but now instead of it being Street Fighter, it's going to be Hogan's Alley.
Well, see, that's pretty much says a lot about the people that are involved in that fight. Okay, you got to be a man about it and just take your beating and just walk away. If you want to shake his hand, you can shake his hands. If you don't want to shake his hand, that's cool. But walk away and leave it alone.
See, this is the thing for me. I've followed this sport for too long.
Mm-hmm.
I've followed this sport for too long that now if I am in a situation where someone's like, you want to fight, and they're talking to me, and I'm 6'3", I'm over 300 pounds. I am not a small dude. And if a small dude is coming up to me asking me if I want to fight, he knows something. I'm just saying, like, most people are smaller than me, and if they want to fight, it's because they know something. They either know something or they've got some ace in the hole. Like, nobody just up and says, let's fight just to fight.
True. Or they just got a Napoleon complex and thinks that, they just got through watching, Rocky 5 or Rocky 3. We'll say Rocky 3. Rocky 3 is good one.
Yeah, because Rocky 5, like, why would you pick that one? That's the Tommy Gunn one. That's like, come on.
Yeah, but Rocky 3 was Clever Lang. So yeah, we'll he just got through watching that. He's hyped himself up. He's coming up to the first guy he sees, ergo Ryan, and he's like, you're gonna buy my lunch. And Ryan looks at him strange and like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And the guy throws a punch. Ryan uppercuts him. He flies in the air. He's, it is what it is.
See, I like that. I like that narrative.
I'm glad you like that. I got a few.
Yeah,
in the air.
Yeah, like in the air, like and then some smaller guy runs up to him after he's been hit, and then they yell, "You got knocked the out!"
Yeah.
So
and
anyway,
his friend tries to run up on you, and you're like, "You want some of this too, old man?" He's like, no. And he just runs off.
So that's the finding the angles. We'll have to revisit this mutual combat law because I want to hear what Casey has to say about that one. But yeah, I thought it'd be interesting. I thought about how it would work in Texas, and then I got instantly afraid.
Yeah, you got every right to be. Here in the DFW area, there are too many people that are not man enough to take a beating and say they got beat. Okay.
There it is. And so let's talk about men who are man enough to take a beating in the next segment we like to call the fight card. All right, this is the fight card. This is where we look at the fights that are coming up this weekend. The one that I'm excited about is UFC Fight Night Gustafsson versus Smith. That's cousin Anthony Lionheart Smith from Factory X. It's happening this Saturday, June the 1st in Ericsson Globe Arena in Stockholm, Sweden. We got 6 fights on the card. Daniel Tamer versus Sung Bin Jo. We got Christos Giagos versus Damir Hadzovic. We got Makwan Amirkhani versus Chris Fishgoal. Jimmy, the poster boy, Manua versus Alexander Rakic. In the co-main event, we got Ilir Latifi versus Volkan Ozdemir. And then in the main event of the evening, Alexander Gustafsson versus Anthony, the Lionheart Smith. Let's make 3 flash fight picks. So we got Jimmy Manua versus Alexander Rakic. Now, a reason why I'm picking this one is because Jimmy's been kind of on a slide lately. I think that if Rakic wins this fight, we might see Manua go the way of the Theodoro.
Ooh, I think Manua knows that, and I think he's going to pull it through. I'm going with Manua.
I don't believe in Manua anymore. I just don't believe in him. I'm going with Rakic.
Wow.
All right. Co-main event, Ilir Latifi, the freaking, his nickname should be The Thing. Like, he is a flesh version of that rock monster guy from the Fantastic Four. That is Ilir Latifi versus Volkan Ozdemir. Huh?
He has no neck.
He has no neck.
He has muscles where normal body parts are supposed to be.
Man.
He's got muscles in his armpit, for Christ's sake. This dude's a wrecking machine.
Yeah, Ilir Latifi is the inspiration for the shampoo Head and Shoulders. Because the dude is just head and shoulders, man.
And nothing else. I mean, I that's a good one. Volkan Ozdemir, in this fight, I like him, but I think Ilir got him. I I would be if he submits him. I want to know how. Okay, that's what I need to know. I need to know how Volkan's going to do it.
Volkan's a striker, dude. He is not a submission specialist.
And I got him confused with somebody else, I believe.
Yeah, Volkan Ozdemir is pure striker, and styles make fights. Ilir Latifi is a wrestler. He's a grappler. He's got headlocks that like freaking, that thing is like putting someone in the stocks. His headlocks are so tight.
I wonder if he can take the Ben Askren challenge and win.
Yo, yes, twice, yes.
I think we need to go on his Twitter and challenge him.
You know what? We will do that tomorrow. We will challenge Ilir Latifi to the Ben Askren Watermelon Challenge. Hey, so this is my thing. I picked Ilir Latifi in his last fight. I forgot who it was against, but I had a strong Ilir Latifi, and the dude just tried to strike with his opponent, and he lost. If Ilir Latifi just tries to strike with Volkan Ozdemir, Volkan will win. But this is the last time I'm going to be so confident with Ilir Latifi. Ilir, I'm talking to you. You are a wrestler. You are a grappler. Take this man down. Finish this fight.
Oh, I think that's going to happen.
I got Ilir Latifi. If he tries to strike, I'm going to be wrong. It's going to be Volkan Ozdemir.
He's going to take him down. He's going to beat him.
So I got Ilir Latifi in this fight. Main event, Alexander Gustafsson versus Anthony Lionheart Smith. Who you got?
Woo! Just that's it. No lead in, no analysis there. Just who you got.
Okay, all right. Look, we could do some. You got Alexander Gustafsson, who is an elite kickboxer. Dude is super tall, super long, fighting Anthony Smith, who, I mean, he's a big dude, but Anthony Smith is the kind of guy who's going to come in there and he does a lot of things well. And so he will make it into kind of this grueling fight that as it goes 3 rounds, 4 rounds, 5 rounds, that's when he starts to wear on you. Whereas Alexander Gustafsson, if he's able to stay back and just punch and kick, he can pick you apart because his striking is just so elite. So it's whether or not Anthony Smith can get inside and make this into something that's more of a street fight as opposed to something that's elite striking that Alexander Gustafsson is known for, where he will just touch you up, cut you up, and then by the time you're getting into the championship rounds, then you don't have much left, that you don't have much gas left. I don't see this fight going to a finish. I think this is going to go to a decision either way. But Anthony's got to have a solution for the elite striking of Alexander Gustafsson. So now, who you got?
Okay, with what you said, I'm going to make it simple. I'm going to go Anthony Smith due to the fact that with everything that you said that he needed to do, he did it, and he did it against Jon Jones. That fight right there proves to me that while he may not be able to beat Jon Jones, may or may not, he'll be more than enough for Alexander Gustafsson.
Alexander Gustafsson let me down. He's let me down a couple of times. And so I'm a bit gun shy picking him. And the thing is that I believe in his striking ability. There's a reason why he was considered one of the greatest light heavyweights in the division. There's a reason why he took Jon Jones in their first fight to the 5th round. There's a reason why he took Daniel Cormier to the 5th round. Like, both of those fights, arguably, Alexander Gustafsson won.
Yeah.
And I just, the last fight against Jon Jones, I didn't see that same fighter. And so I'm really gun shy about picking Alexander Gustafsson. However, because I know KC is going to pick Anthony Lionheart Smith, because I know you just picked Anthony Lionheart Smith, I'm going to be the contrarian, and I'm going to go with Alexander Gustafsson. I'm on the Swedes train. I'm picking against Cousin Anthony. That's right. I'm picking against Cousin Anthony Lionheart Smith. Please do not come up on me. If you're going to take out your frustration, there is a dude who represents us who is at your gym.
Exactly.
And he does want to fight.
Yeah, he does. He really does.
He really does.
He was like, I got him.
Oh, dude. He analyzed you. He picked you apart, and he said he could take you.
Yeah, he talked about your weaknesses, dude.
That's right. That's why KC is not here right now, so he can't defend himself. That's right, KC. We are getting that fight scheduled. We are your hype men. We are your Ali Abdelaziz. That's who we are.
tell him to send you location.
Send you location. I tell you, it's in Denver. We got you, man. We got your way back. We got you all the way back from the Lone Star State, man. You can do this.
Yes, you can.
All right. This is going to go on the show, man. It's going to be so great. All right. Okay, look, because I like KC and I don't want him to get hurt. Mr. Sir Anthony Lionheart Smith, sir, we know this ain't a joke. We know this is real stuff, and we don't want you to take this seriously whatsoever. So please do not beat up KC. Please do not send anybody to beat up KC on your behalf.
But do make it good, though. If you roll with them, okay?
Just say hi. Like, just become friends.
Yeah.
That's it. Let him know you listen.
Yeah. He's actually a good fan. He's kind of a fan of yours. He's fanboying. He's he's shy. God, it sounds like we're setting him up on a date.
I know, man. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Look, we take it all back. We take it all back. We take it all back. Look, we're writing checks that KC has to cash.
KC got money.
He ain't got that kind of money though. All right. Well, follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan.
And I am at Keys to Victory, and that's Keys with an ES.
That's also your Instagram handle, and my Instagram handle is Combat Sports Talk. You can check out our website at www.combatsportstalk.com, and you can find us on any one of your favorite podcasting platforms. We've got merchandise. Check our website for our merchandise link, and we have a section for live events. Hoping to do one with George G. Money Stallworth in the next couple of weeks for the next pay-per-view on June 8th. And do you have anything else before we go?
No, not this week. For Memorial Day, I did a few videos of me cooking. So if you want to see what I do on when I'm not talking, MMA or doing IT work, I cook. So just I'll check and see if the videos are back up there. If not, I'll repost them, and people enjoy it.
All right, there you go. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com, and KC Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For John Keys, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs. And don't hurt KC.